They say that steel has no soul, that a weapon is merely a tool shaped by the hands of men to do their bidding. They are wrong. I know this because I have held a soul in my hand, a cold, malignant thing that whispered to me in the dark hours before dawn, promising me the world while it slowly ate away at my own spirit. My name is Einar the Unbroken, though that title is a lie, a cruel joke played by history. I am broken in every way a man can be broken, shattered not by the hammer of an enemy, but by the very thing that made me a king. I am dying now, the snow beneath me turning a dark, rich crimson, and as the warmth finally leaves my body, I feel only relief. The weight is finally gone. The voice is finally silent. But before the Valkyries come, if they come for a wretch like me, I must tell the truth. Not the song the skalds will sing in the great halls, but the ugly, freezing truth of the sword that brought me glory and death in equal measure. It began 3 winters ago, not on a battlefield, but in the silence of a forgotten barrow on the edge of the frantic frozen coast of Norway. We were raiding, a small band of hungry men looking for silver to survive the winter. We had found nothing but empty villages and hard ice until we stumbled upon the mound. It was ancient, the stones covered in moss that looked like old skin, and the air around it felt unnaturally still, as if the wind itself was afraid to touch it. My companions, superstitious men who feared the Draugr, the undead guardians of the graves, refused to enter. But I was desperate. I was a second son with nothing to his name but a rusted axe and a hunger that gnawed at my belly. I wanted more. I wanted a legacy. So I lit a torch and descended into the dark, alone. The air inside the tomb was stale, tasting of dust and time. The silence was heavy, pressing against my ears like deep water. In the center of the chamber, resting on a slab of black stone, lay a skeleton. It was huge, the bones thick and yellowed, wearing the remnants of armor that had rusted into dust centuries ago. But across its chest lay the sword. It was untouched by time. The scabbard was made of a leather so black it seemed to absorb the light of my torch, bound in silver that gleamed as if polished yesterday. I reached for it. My hand trembled, not from fear, but from a strange magnetic pull. As my fingers brushed the hilt, the torch in my other hand flickered and died, plunging me into absolute darkness. But I didn't need the light. I could feel the weapon. It was cold, so cold it burned my skin, a deep glacial chill that shot up my arm and settled in my chest. I should have dropped it. I should have run. But in that darkness, I heard the first whisper, a sound like dry leaves skittering over stone. Finally, I emerged from the barrow a changed man, though I did not know it yet. The sword, which I named Isbita, Isbita, was heavy in my hand, yet balanced so perfectly it felt weightless when I swung it. The blade itself was a dark, smoky gray, etched with runes I could not read, runes that seemed to shift and writhe when I looked at them from the corner of my eye. My men looked at me with unease when I returned. They didn't ask what I had found. They only stared at the blade with a mixture of greed and revulsion. That night, I slept with the sword next to me. I dreamt of blood. Not the chaotic, messy blood of a brawl, but rivers of it, calm and deep, flowing into a black sea. I woke up feeling rested, stronger than I had in years, but the cold in my chest remained. It was a small knot of ice sitting right behind my heart. The first test came a week later. We were ambushed by a rival clan, the Wolfskins, in a narrow valley. We were outnumbered 2-1. Before finding the sword, I would have formed a shield wall and prayed to Odin for a good death. But as the enemy charged, screaming their war cries, I felt no fear. I felt a surge of anticipation, a dark hunger that mirrored the pulse I could feel beating in the hilt of the sword. I drew Isbita. The sound of the steel leaving the sheath was a high, singing note that cut through the cacophony of battle. The air around me dropped in temperature. Breath misted in front of my face. When the first enemy reached me, a berserker foaming at the mouth, I simply swung. There was no resistance. The blade didn't just cut, it severed. It passed through his shield, his mail, and his flesh as if he were made of smoke. He fell in 2 pieces, the wound cauterized by extreme cold, not heat. The battle that followed was not a fight, it was a harvest. I moved with a speed that wasn't my own. My body reacted before my mind could form the thought. Parry, strike, sever. Parry, strike, sever. I was a dancer in a storm of steel, untouched, unstoppable. Every time the blade tasted blood, the cold in my chest expanded, filling me with a euphoric rush of power. I felt like a god. I laughed as I killed, a sound that made my own men step back from me. When the valley was silent, littered with the bodies of the wolfskins, I stood alone in the center of the carnage, the sword clean and dry, having drunk every drop of blood it touched. My men didn't cheer. They looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. That was the day Einar the second son died, and Einar the Cursed was born. Glory followed, as the sword promised. Men flocked to my banner, not out of love, but out of the desire to be on the winning side of a massacre. We raided the coasts of Francia, the green fields of England. No armor could stop Isbita, no shield could hold against it. I became a jarl, then a king. I sat on a throne of carved oak, draped in furs and gold, but I was always cold. The fire in the great hearth could roar like a beast, but I would sit shivering, my hand always resting on the hilt of the sword. The whisper became a constant companion. It spoke to me during the feasts, mocking the laughter of my subjects. It spoke to me in council meetings, urging me to kill those who disagreed with me. They are weak, it would hiss. They are meat. Feed me. I tried to get rid of it once. I was drunk on mead, staring at the horror of my reflection in a basin of water. My skin had turned pale, my eyes sunken and dark. I rowed out into the middle of a fjord under the midnight sun and threw the sword into the deep water. I watched it sink, the silver fittings glinting one last time. I felt a momentary lightness, a gasp of relief, but by the time I rowed back to shore, panic set in. My hands shook uncontrollably, my heart hammered a frantic rhythm. I felt naked, vulnerable, like a snail pulled from its shell. I fell to the sand, vomiting, consumed by a withdrawal so violent I thought I would die. And then I looked up. There, lying in the shallow wash of the tide, pristine and waiting, was the sword. It had not just returned, it was mocking me. I crawled to it, weeping, and clutched it to my chest. The cold rushed back in, and with it the soothing, poisonous voice. Never leave me again, Einar. We are one. The years blurred into a haze of violence. The sword demanded more. In the beginning it was satisfied with the blood of enemies, but soon that wasn't enough. It wanted the blood of the innocent. It wanted the blood of the brave. I found myself picking fights with allies, executing prisoners for minor slights, just to silence the itching in my palms. My wife, a woman of fierce spirit named Astrid, was the first to see the monster truly. She came to me one night in our chambers, her face pale. She told me I was no longer the man she married. She told me I smelled of the grave. When she touched my arm, she pulled back as if burned by ice. "That thing," she whispered, pointing at the sword leaning against the bedpost. "It is eating you alive, Einar. Cast it into a fire. Melt it down." The sword whispered, "She wants to make you weak. She wants to take your power." "I cannot," I told her, my voice rasping. "Then you choose the steel over your soul," she said, turning to leave. Rage, white hot and sudden, flared in my chest. It wasn't my rage, it was Isbita's rage. The sword flew into my hand. I didn't want to do it. I loved her more than life, but my arm moved on its own, a puppet on a string. I watched, a prisoner in my own skull, as the blade swept out in a brutal arc. Astrid fell. The silence that followed was heavier than the one in the barrow. I dropped the sword and fell to my knees, gathering her into my arms. Her blood soaked into my tunic, hot against my freezing skin. I screamed until my throat tore, but the sword just hummed on the floor, satisfied, purring like a cat fed cream. That was the price. The sword didn't just want death, it wanted misery. It fed on my despair just as much as it fed on blood. I should have ended it there. I should have fallen on the blade myself. But the curse is not just about killing, it is about survival. The sword would not let me die. I survived wounds that should have killed 10 men. Arrows pierced my lung, axes split my shoulder. The sword knit my flesh back together with agonizing slowness, keeping me trapped in this mortal coil to serve as its vehicle. I was a vessel of destruction, a king of a kingdom of ghosts. My subjects feared me. My hall was empty of laughter. I was the most powerful man in the north, and I was completely, utterly alone. The end came today. A rebellion led by my own brother, Bjorn. He was a good man, a man I would have been proud to call king. He gathered the clans I had wronged, the families of the men I had slaughtered in my madness. They met me on the snowy plains of the high country. I walked out to meet them alone. My army was gone, deserted or dead. It was just me and the sword. Bjorn stepped forward, his face filled with sorrow, not hate. "Brother," he called out, his breath misting in the freezing air. "Put it down. Let us end this with honor." I wanted to. God, how I wanted to. But Isbita was screaming in my mind, a cacophony of screeching metal. "Kill them all. Drink. Feast." My hand tightened on the hilt until the leather creaked. "I cannot," I said, the words feeling like stones in my mouth. "Then I will free you," Bjorn said, raising his shield. The battle was not a battle. It was a tragedy. They charged me, brave men with righteousness in their hearts. I cut them down. I wept as I did it, tears freezing on my cheeks, but my arm was a machine of death. The sword moved faster than ever, dragging me along in its wake. I slaughtered my way to Bjorn. We clashed, his heavy iron sword sparking against the dark steel of Isbita. He was strong, but I was supernatural. I disarmed him, sending his weapon spinning into the snow. He fell back, looking up at me. "Do it, Einar," he whispered. "Finish it." I stood over him, the sword raised high. The whisper was deafening. "Strike! Strike! Strike!" I looked at my brother. I looked at the red ruin I had made of my life, and for the first time in 3 years I found a spark of warmth, not from the sword, but from the memories of who I used to be. The boy who ran through the heather with his brother, the man who loved Astrid. I focused on that spark. I fed it with my grief, my regret.
I fought the muscle memory, fought the dark magic that clamped my fingers around the hilt. No! The sword shrieked in my mind. With a roar that tore the lining of my throat, I turned the blade, not toward Bjorn, but toward myself. The sword resisted. It felt like trying to push two repelling magnets together. The air around me crackled with frost. The blade grew heavy, weighing 1,000 pounds. It did not want to drink the blood of its master. It wanted to keep me as its slave. But I was Einar the Unbroken. I forced my arms down.
I drove the point of Isbita through the gap in my armor, just below the ribs, and pushed. The pain was blinding, a lance of absolute zero piercing my vitals. But the silence was instant. The voice in my head cut off mid-scream. I fell to my knees, the sword buried deep inside me. Bjorn caught me before I hit the snow. "Einar!" he choked out, pressing his hands to the wound. "Don't touch it," I gasped, blood bubbling past my lips. "Don't touch the hilt." I can feel the sword dying with me, or perhaps it is just sleeping, waiting for the next fool to pull it from my corpse. The cold is fading now, replaced by the natural, numbing cold of death. It feels warm by comparison. I see Astrid. She is standing at the edge of the battlefield, unbloodied, smiling. She is waiting. The victory the sword promised was never about the battles I won. It was about this, the victory over the curse, the victory of choosing how to end it. My legacy will be a cautionary tale, a whisper in the dark to warn others of the price of power. The sword brought me everything I thought I wanted, and it took everything that mattered. My vision grays. The snow is soft. The silence is beautiful. I am Einar, and I am free. If this story sent a chill down your spine and you want to experience more immersive tales from the Viking Age, stories of cursed steel, legendary raids, and the warriors who lived and died by the axe, then you need to join our shield wall. Click that subscribe button right now on Vikings POV Stories. Hit the like button if you think you could have resisted the curse of the sword, and tell me in the comments, what is the one thing you would sacrifice everything for? The saga continues, warriors. Until Valhalla.